What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the Winter Wolf's Den. Winter Wolf here with a little bit of breaking news for the day. I don't know if you've been keeping up with it yourself, but in breaking news, She-Hulk still sucks. We're going to touch on Episode 3 today. I'm going to just give a couple of quick observations on it from a writing standpoint that I just don't think hold up. Usual gripes with the show aside that have to do with just humor not landing. I think where the show really does betray itself is that it can't even execute on the most basic of premises. And I've got a couple of points that I'd like to throw out there for you guys to consider and discuss in the comments below if you'd like. Well, where I think the show it doesn't know what it wants to be. Like if it's trying to be a comedy, personally I'm not finding it funny, and I'm right up there with plenty of old school comedies. I love me some old school shit. Animal House, Old School, My Cousin Vinny, anything with Will Ferrell where he's kind of like a supporting role outside of like Talladega and his other big ones. It's like there's funny stuff out there that's demonstrably funny that most people find funny, but I'm not finding a whole lot of positive feedback with this show being funny. What I'm finding with the show is that it's written maybe for a particular very narrow, there's a certain demographic of viewers that probably very closely mimic the writer's room for this show that might find some of this stuff kind of funny. And I'm saying that in particular with reference to her former associate at the DA's office, who is obviously the world's biggest piece of shit, and that's fine. You can have the world's biggest piece of shit in your show. But the way that actually works is you kind of make him a big piece of shit, and then you elevate other people around him through personality and character development, and then you're able to get the audience to more jump on board with the story you're trying to tell with those people. The issues that I think are the most glaring with the show going forward are they already admitted they can't write legal dramas, and that's fine. Like maybe you should have called in a couple people so you could more effectively write that kind of fiction, but whatever, you didn't do it. So I don't expect this to be some long drawn-out episode of C-SPAN where Jen Walters is going to get through, a discovery phase and then everything else that comes along that we all recently learned about in the Johnny Depp trial. Like, no, it doesn't need to be that. It can be streamlined. But they don't do anything compelling with what they do put out there. Like, what exactly did she do in prep for the Blonsky defense? Nothing. They didn't show her putting through putting in any kind of work. They basically decided they were going to ring up Wong for some reason and tie this into the Shang-Chi cameo that they both made, and then they just look him up on Google and call him in. Like, there's no process, there's no struggle, there's no obstacle. Wong said he'd show up. There's no battle of wits. There's no challenge to bring him in. There were no obstacles. Wong basically comes in and admits that he broke Abomination out because he needed a worthy fight to ascend to Sorcerer Supreme status. That's fucking retarded. Wong, as we know him, is kind of clever, kind of witty. He's the guy that does take over the Sorcerer Supreme and runs the Sanctum Sanctorum. And he's kind of a by-the-book guy. Like, he's the former, curator, librarian over at Comertage. So, like, he's not a reckless fly-by-the-seat-of-your-pants, break a super fucking villain out of an Ultramax prison kind of guy. And then verbatim make the offer to give him amnesty and just keep him in Comertage for his service and getting his ass kicked. Like, they want me to believe that Wong broke a supervillain out, beat his ass, in the ring, and then it was Blonsky's idea to go back to jail so he could earn his parole. Like, stop. It's just fucking stupid. And I know that some dipshit out there is going to try and tell me that it's a setup for Secret Wars or something and it wasn't really Wong. But you know what? If that's the case, they did a shit job layering any kind of foreshadowing of that in there at all. So no, I'm not going to write their headcanon for them with that. It was just fucking dumb. I didn't like that at all. And I think that both of those problems, they're kind of related with Blonsky and Wong in this episode, is that everything this character claims is a complaint that she's objectified and she's not taken seriously is then countermanded by things that they actually give you in the episode, where she's complaining that people judge her as being unqualified. Well, if you're talking about they think you're unqualified to be a lawyer, we know that's dead ass wrong from the rip. The guy that hired you to be the head of the Superhuman Law Division hired you because you were the She-Hulk, but he explicitly mentioned that he appreciated your talent in the courtroom and how you had his team beat until, the courtroom got busted up. So no one thinks you're unqualified. And if there's complaints that people are thinking you're unqualified on the superhero front, well, maybe we should have seen some superhero stuff. Like, maybe you should have been out there where people were kind of countermanding and saying, no, you shouldn't have done that. You know, the real Hulk would have done this better. But you didn't. We blow through all of that, which should be interesting character work and developmental things, to get back to the stupid shit that they try and drum up as being funny. Where they inadvertently made Bukowski the most developed character on the fucking show, including the star. They fucked up by putting him in a position to actually have more than his superficial faults, where he was taken advantage of by, you know, the Asgardian life elf doing the really stupid catfishing bullshit as Meg the Stallion. And it, like, but you made him a little sympathetic in doing that, and it played out better for him than any of the other character development stuff they've done for her through the run. So I think the writers, they thought they were owning guys by making him the stereotypical douchebag that even other guys have no use for. Like, we really don't. Like, this dude in a workplace in 2022, unless he's connected to big fucking money or knows where a body is buried, loses that job. He just does, especially in a public sector job. It just doesn't happen. It's like, this isn't 1982. Like, she's not fighting the glass fucking ceiling. She's the head of a superhero division at a prestigious firm. You know, so I guess I'm not buying into what they're trying to put out there as the owning of guys watching this show. That brings me to another gripe that I had with it, now that I think of it too, that social media collage at the beginning, where it has comments like they were lifted right from comments about this show, like in the real world. And some of them are like, how can you take the powers of a male character and give them to you? Like, we want the real Hulk, or whatever else that stupid shit said. And like, these dipshit writers just don't get it. In the MCU world where those comments were made, literally nobody would be saying you're a tokenized version of the Hulk, or you're not good enough because you're a female version of the Hulk. You're still a fucking superhero. And I don't recall anybody kind of shitting on Black Widow or Manta or Storm or any of the other female superheroes that have come up in the, you know, the 30 plus MCU and, you know, Fox movies that we got. No one's nitpicking out the girls over the guys in these things. It's all in your heads, writers of this show. It's stupid. It's not the own you think it is to have message boards describing real life character actions within the show be somehow reflective of fans. Like, it only works if it's fans complaining about fiction. These remarks aren't made about real people toward real people. So you kind of played yourself stupid with that. And I was willing to give you a shot with when we actually got into the trial phase that maybe it would get more interesting as it goes, but sadly it hasn't. You blew that shot. Like, it's done. Blonsky's done. Like, you resolved that arc with no difficulty whatsoever. You got him the parole and you blew out. Like, you're done. Like, that's over. I'll bet anybody money. Let me know in the comments below how you want to set it up. Maybe we can work out a one-on-one bet on DraftKings or something. I'm willing to bet Abomination's done on the show and you don't see him again. We can discuss bets. You know, so we're moving. I'll get to the last bit right now. We're moving into what's going to be the arc going for the last 5 or 6 episodes, whatever they have left, where she gets jumped in an alley by a bunch of scrubs at the end of this episode, who assault her, make every dumbass mistake you could make in a fight situation, with the reveal that they're trying to get her blood, but of course she hulks up and the hypodermic can't break the skin and get the sample. But like, the opening line they give her is, you can't just think you can strut around with these powers. Like, who the fuck would talk like that in an MCU world post-Avengers? Like, Avengers 1, post-Avengers, where there are a glut of fucking superheroes out there, some of whom are female. Who's taking that personally in this role? You know? The only interesting bit of that sequence at all is that these 4 dipshits come at her with Asgardian weapons. I'd be interested to see how they got secured. We kind of know how they are, because one of the closing lines dipshit number 3 gives is that the boss isn't going to be happy with us not getting the sample. So this is going to be your Kingpin Daredevil tie-in. So you knew that was coming. But it's just fucking dumb. Like, imagine having 4 dudes to jump somebody, and the first guy secures the person from behind in the alley, and then we talk for 30 seconds, let her hulk up, and then try to do the hypodermic. Who the fuck didn't the first guy just roll up behind her and jab her and fucking take the blood and then run? Like, no, okay, all right, whatever. You're 4 dumbest fucking criminals on Earth. It's just 4 more dumbass guys on this show. I mean, I guess that's a thing. God damn. Let me leave you with this. It's a show that starts by her trying to take the piss out of us by breaking fourth wall and making it was actually a decent joke in the making, where she's talking about I'm not trying to be one of those cameo shows, but then she said, except for the Hulk, and except for Blonsky, and except for and then she, of course, she looks dead ass right at the camera. She gets her hands back up on the wheel and she reminds us, but don't forget whose show this is. And as she says that, I'm like, motherfucker, we know Daredevil's coming. Like, it is a cameo show. This shit really can't stand on its own. Like, what story progress, what story elements does this chick have if there's not a cameo character where people are tuning in to see the other person? I can't imagine people are tuning in to see what Jen Walters gets up to next. I'm pretty sure that this is how these MCU shows are going to work going forward, is that the crappier the show, they are going to have to cram in references and appearances to other characters. And I'll wrap this back into Miss Marvel before I go. And I think that's one of the good things that show got right, is that they established likable characters on the show, gave me their relationships, developed them, gave her obstacles, showed her struggle to overcome them, and then wrapped up the series. And I would have appreciated longer episodes or more episodes of that also, but at least they got that. I mean, that's textbook writing of how like story progress is supposed to work. But in this show, I feel like we're tuning in to see which person they make do some stupid, awful fake alpha Chad bullshit. Like, we're showing up to see what he's going to do next. But how is that? It's just not sustainable. So I'm gonna bounce, guys. I appreciate you guys stopping in to hear me rant about this. I had hopes that by episode 3 it might have got a little bit okay, but it's really not. This is gonna be a slog to get through. They're back on their usual form. So smash me a like button for having me suffer through this god-awful show so you don't have to. Comment below, like, specifically, if you thought a joke was funny in this show. I'd love to know what it was. The cameos are stupid. I didn't even talk about Meg Thee Stallion's cameo, really, but I'm like, how many articles did I have to read running into this episode this week that this was like a big deal? There was a big cameo coming through. She had one line in episode, and the now infamously lame-ass twerking sequence at the end of the episode. Like, that's it. She showed up to do that. It was post-credits, and I'm guaranteeing you half of the people that watched this show didn't stick around to watch that garbage anyway. And it's just really, it's one more highlight to how kind of hypocritical the show is that on the one hand, we have to listen to her rant and rave about catcalls and not being taken seriously, and then they wrap the stinger scene with her boss watching her twerk in the office with a client, in broad daylight during working hours. So if she wants to go fucking get her twerk on at the fucking bar at the club on her time, dude, knock yourself out. You're not on the boss's dime. You do whatever you want. But like, you've made the point about not being taken seriously at the job and then completely shot it in the foot on your own with no help from any of the guys on the show. So, I mean, figure that out. Reconcile that how you want, guys. That's it for me. I'm taking off, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Sorry for the rant.